Thank you. You know, we made a couple comments about this being the last and everything, but I tell people a lot of times, you know, there's been a lot of things in the news the last month and what's going on nationally in our country and things like that, but a lot of it is here that happens right in our neighborhood. These are people that you see at the grocery store, that you run into at the schools, that you run into on the trails, and that affect you personally a little bit more there. And I guess it stands here, so I probably have the most questions for these positions, which is the local stuff, because this is what matters to all of us the most. So we've combined the different districts. So all of these are running. All of these people are running. You know, there's 3 different districts. We define them, but they're all running to help us in our county. So I've got the questions here, and what I'm going to do is ask the questions. And guys, we've made some comments about it running late, so. Jim's not going to get too nasty with the stopwatch, but you know what? If you don't have to elaborate a whole lot, just tell us what you need to say, and so we can go on, because we got a whole lot of things that people here want to know about what you have to say about us right here locally. So let's ask the questions, and then we'll go as fast as we can. County Commissioners, what would you do to address the opioid crisis in Livingston County? And let's just start here with Kristina, and then we'll go down, and then we'll start with a different person every time. Different.
I think I said detox beds. We have no place for someone to go when they need help. I've actually watched our local hospital turn away someone in the midst of withdrawal, saying we don't do that here.
Dennis?
This is such a national problem. It's not just a problem here, unfortunately. An issue that the courts and judges, many have to deal with. It's extremely difficult for a individual, unless you're a member of a family with someone that has an issue and a problem, dealing with it, to try to deal with a situation of this nature. The magnitude is great, and again, it's not just here. It's everywhere, unfortunately. Now, with that said, do we turn a blind eye to it? No. But again, this takes dollars and educated people and people with desire to tackle a problem of this nature. Is ongoing. Will take probably forever, perhaps, to quench.
Yes, I agree with Kristina. We definitely need more detox beds. I have firsthand experience with a loved one who was in the midst of opioid addiction, and when he was ready to get clean, the thing that he needed the most was a bed right then and there, because it's not a decision that you can just wait. You can wait on. When you're ready, you're ready. The other thing that I think we should do, and I know myself and my fellow Democratic candidates have pushed for this, is for the county to get involved in multi-district litigation against opioid manufacturers. Myself and Alex Hansen, who's running in District 5, and forgive me if I left out any other Democratic candidates, we came to a special Health and Human Services board subcommittee meeting, tried to push that idea, and haven't heard a thing about it since. Supposedly they were meeting with their attorneys, but that participation in that litigation would help defray some of the enormous social and economic costs the taxpayers are paying, hidden costs and not so hidden costs, for dealing with a crisis that was largely brought about by opioid manufacturers. So I'd like to see more action on that. Thank you.
Maureen.
More beds, of course. Other treatment options across the county. I think that we need to return our community mental health funding back to pre-depression, pre-recession levels. I think that drug addiction is a mental health problem and a health problem and not a criminal problem. And we're over-criminalized in some ways, I think, in Livingston County, and we need to think about other responses to the crisis.
I think that with the drug court, I think the county gets the problem. The county has a lot of different organizations that are working together on this problem, and we do understand understand that it's not something that the courts can deal with, but there are some times when in our jail they have treatment. They have classes and things like that help with that. It is a very complex situation. The beds are needed. I think I'm finally on or something. Or that means I'm off. Does that mean? Okay. But it is something that I'm on this committee that's looking at this, and it's been very eye-opening to me, and I've read some books on it, that it's we will do what we can do, and we're working on it, yes.
Dennis, we'll start with you. Earlier this year, some county commissioners tried to get the board to go on record against Proposal 1 to legalize the use of possession of small amounts of marijuana by adults. Do you support Proposal 1?
I recall the discussion that took place at the time, and I said then, and I stand now, it is not my position or take to tell anyone, the voters of this community or anyone, as to how they should vote. Now, as far as that said, do I agree completely with Proposal 1? No. But it is not, again, my position or take to tell anyone what to do. And I made that opening statement at the board meeting and table.
Kasey?
Yes, I do support Proposal 1. I also disagreed strongly with the board members, including my opponent and Mr. Helzerman, who tried to push a motion to have the county officially oppose Proposal 1. I felt like that was an overreach, and even the people within the county's own party, Dan back there, stood up and said this is probably a violation of campaign finance law, and yet they pushed through it anyway. I think that shows how out of touch some people on our county board are as it pertains to this issue. And yes, I absolutely support Proposal 1. I feel criminalization is ineffective, it's expensive. I'm all for Proposal 1.
Maureen?
What she said. Yes, I'm for Proposal 1. I think it's better to regulate, tax, and be able to watch revenue on substances like marijuana than it is to criminalize possession and other elements.
I do believe it's within the purview of county commissioners to take positions on issues that are on the ballot. It is strictly against policy to spend any county money on either side of a ballot issue. I have read this issue, and it probably is going to pass. But when you read it, there is no limit to the number of licenses that can be issued. It says something in like year 2, after 24 months, that there may be some things. Whenever you have a ballot issue, you have a one-sided approach to it, and there are many things that will be unintended consequences of this. Even if you agree with marijuana, this ballot proposal is not good, even if you agree with that.
Kristina?
Well, I definitely support Proposal 1 from a corrections standpoint, from a financial standpoint, from a small government standpoint. People drink alcohol. We collect tax. I don't see a difference at all in marijuana to alcohol. We're all consenting adults, and as long as it's regulated, I don't see a problem.
Kasey, we'll start with you. Do you support the proposed Wally train, which is the train that would run from Ann Arbor to Howell, and how would you pay for it?
I think that more research needs to be done on the Wally train. What I feel is a greater priority right now is the transportation study, the transit study that the county got the grant. I think it was $150,000 for this grant to study transit expanded transit, in the county. I have a mother-in-law who doesn't drive and a brother-in-law with Parkinson's. My husband and I are responsible for their care, and my brother-in-law is going to have to hand over his keys pretty soon. We are responsible for driving them. There are people all over the county, especially out in rural areas, who don't have access to transportation, regular transportation. I'm not talking about LETs. I'm talking about scheduled transit that runs on a regular schedule. As our senior population continues to expand, like Maureen brought up, I think it's 1,500 every year. This is going to become a deeper and deeper need, and I think it takes priority over Wally for now. And I say that even as somebody who commutes to Ann Arbor every day and would love a Wally, but I think that's more important.
Maureen?
I agree. I think a broader transit strategy is really important. I think there might be train service coming out of the exploration of the Ann Arbor to Traverse area train that's supposed to stop in Howell. So I think that other things may emerge.
I grew up in a Detroit that had a wonderful transportation system. I was born when Detroit had a wonderful transportation system. The car changed that. People moving to the suburbs changed that. These transit systems don't make financial sense on their own, and at some point we have to decide how much money we're going to put into it, how much are we going to pay. Cities like Detroit and other places have taxed this and taxed that and taxed that, and they run business out. There's a certain point at which you have to say, let's face reality, and let's be as kind as we can. But to have a Wally, I think Wally is not anywhere close to financially feasible.
Kristina?
Well, like I mentioned in my earlier spiel, I'm very aware of the transportation needs in the county, and that's why Lyft was so important, which cost us nothing. I was a little puzzled why I didn't get any help from leadership to bring Lyft here. I passed out business cards, handed out flyers. Everybody wanted it. People wanted it. And now we have it. And if people want Wally, I think that's up to the people, because obviously spending money, that kind of money, is a voter choice.
Dave?
I believe, first of all, the study needs to be completed and in depth to the actual discovery as to the total needs of the county overall. And as far as Wally goes, this came up to the board for discussion, and we were asked to contribute to this long ago. I believe Hamburg Township did at that time, and others. Unfortunately, a great deal of money has already been spent along the Wally line now, and I'm still concerned. This to me is almost something that before it becomes reality, I would maybe like to see it go to the voter. I am very concerned about the possibility of this not being used as great as what one might think, and or could possibly fall off in the near future after being implemented. So I'm very concerned about that, and I do think it's something that the voters should most likely be involved here and have a say into actual usage.
Okay, the next question, we're going to go first with Maureen. I'm combining two questions. It's what are you doing to address the situation with Veterans Services Committee? And then it talks that the people of Livingston County voted a veterans millage. Why is there not oversight, and why haven't programs been established to help veterans? So it's talking about the Veterans Services Committee and the funding.
I think a problem has emerged about a disconnect between the voters, the commission, and the volunteer board that manages the Veterans Fund for the county. There are problems in the fact that they haven't expended the resources that the voters put in place. So the balance is quite high on the account for the Veterans Fund, and that means that the work that the voters wanted to see done isn't actually getting done. The other problems, I think, the investigation by state police, challenges with some of the people on the commission personally and financially, those just have to play out and see what happens. But I think the county commission needs to take a stronger role in watching what's happening.
The Veterans Affairs Committee has a great history from the Civil War till now. And our veterans, I talked to one of the people that's involved with the veterans. I don't believe he's on the board. He was instrumental with bringing the wall here. But my key concern is that the veterans' needs are being taken care of. And I believe that the veterans' needs are being taken care of. From everything that I can, that part, I believe that. But there is money that has been received, and there's money that has not been spent. We agree on that. And in my discussion with the veterans, they would like to have a transitional house. Right now, the transitional house is going to Baymount Inn. And there's a family now that has a $25,000 bill for being there for 6 months.
Kristina?
Well, I mean, not being inside, knowing what's going on, I can only tell you what I know from the newspapers and reports. Mm-hmm. I'd say we have some self-dealing and appointing buddies and no accountability. And that all needs to be addressed.
Dennis?
Well, the fact is first of all, there is an investigation ongoing at this particular time. So I am not going to be able to address this to any terrible extent. There is a report, I could say, that will be due to us at the next board meeting, which is next Monday. But other than that, I will not be able to address the city farther at this particular time, Rick.
Okay. Kasey?
Yes, I find it hard to believe that we know anything about how the county board knows anything about how this money is being spent, because it didn't even speak up when the committee member misreported the year-end balance at $80,000 when it was supposed to be closer to $1 million. I don't honestly think anybody on this county commission knows how much money is in this millage right now. If you were to ask them that as a straightforward question, maybe they do, maybe they don't. The fact that there's a criminal investigation surrounding this issue, that is a whole other issue that is just goes right to accountability and competence. And what we really need, Democrats who are running for county commission have called for a forensic audit of this fund. We've called for whistleblower protections for Mr. Smitty, who brought this issue into the forefront. There's a lot more questions than answers that we have right now, and I don't think anyone can make any conclusions at this point in an accurate way.
Doug, we'll start with you with the next question. Do you support continuing Ann Arbor Spark for economic development, and if so, to what extent?
The answer is yes. Ann Arbor Spark and the Livingston Development Corporation has mixed reviews in the county, because in my district, Conway Township doesn't want to develop. Iosco Township doesn't want to develop. Unadilla Township doesn't want to develop. The people in District 1 of Putnam don't want to develop. But Fowlerville and Handy Township do want to develop. And they have used Fred Dillingham previous to that. There is a lot of good business in Fowlerville. And it's one of the easiest places to go. Good expressway, things like that. I do favor that. I favored going down from $200,000 100,000 to 175, so that to encourage them to get other support. But I think it's very, very good for the county, but not the whole county thinks that.
Kristina?
Yes, I support Spark.
Hey, Dennis?
Yes, I agree with him in regards to this matter.
Casey?
Yes, I do support Spark, and I think that the original amount needs to be restored for this next upcoming budget year. I think there are regional considerations that need to be made outside of just the township. I'm not running for a township board, I'm running for a county commissioner position, and you have to consider that from a regional, county-wide perspective. What may not work for Marion Township specifically might work from a more regional perspective for District 6 as a whole. But we've got to do something about our roads, because even my opponent said that development isn't going to come here if we don't fix that problem.
Maureen?
I support Spark. I also support the County Commission to look hard at other ways of supporting small businesses across the county, so that even in those rural townships, we're doing things that help people stay in business.
Yep, you're right.
We're starting here with Kristina again. The next question. The current Board of Commissioners ignored our concerns about the E.T. Rover pipeline. What are your plans about holding the E.T. Rover pipeline accountable for the 25 million gallons of gasoline contaminated into the Portage Lake River? Any plans about emergency management with E.T. Rover? So, your thoughts about E.T. Rover?
Well, I think one of my heroes that I read about was a Washtenaw County commissioner who actually offered to throw his body in front of a machine to stop the ET Rover from going through Washtenaw. Was really disappointed to see my county commissioners not say a peep. I don't think I have the expertise to quite put a finger on what I could do to stop it. It's already there. I think we have some serious issues, and we need environmentalists to be involved in the decisions that come forward after the already installed ET Rover.
When you say stop, okay, it's like holding that sign up. Easier said than done. You just don't throw it out in the field and tell a rover, hey, stop that equipment. Take that pipe out of the ground, do this, do that. It doesn't work that way. It has to be run through the entire channel and system as though it's going in. And I find it hard to believe that any one of us here in this room this evening would have that, and jointly have that capability here at this table tonight to be able to do that, as much as we may want to at times. You know, it's just like the PFAS in our water. We didn't start this, okay? We have it here in Hamburg Township now. What a sad, sad situation, all right? But we're stuck with it. Again, not an easy thing to overcome.
Yes, sadly, I agree. This is a case of hindsight when it comes to ET Rover. One of the first things I did when I decided to run for county commission was to go out and visit a dewatering site right there on the border of Putnam Township. It was a mess, and it is a situation of advocacy. I think that's the key word. The difference between Washtenaw County and Livingston County when it came down to Rover at the time was that Washtenaw County advocated for their citizens who lived along that pipeline, while Livingston County commissioners remained silent and reaped profits, financial benefits, I would say, from that arrangement in the form of security contracts for the sheriff's department, working part-time officers on that site. That is not advocating for the people who live along that pipeline. There was property values have plummeted out there. There's pollution. It's terrible, and no one was speaking for them. And I happened to talk to somebody who told me that she contacted my opponent for a meeting, and he never even called her back. That is not public service, and I have a big problem with it.
Maureen?
I think we've talked a lot about just what a glorious place we all live in. We depend so much on the open spaces and the beautiful waters. It's sinful to not be exercising every strategy possible to keep that land and water clean and ecologically functioning. I think that at the county level, we can grow the skills it takes to lead and advocate and be visionary instead of instead of conservative.
Okay, as I see the Rover pipeline and the PFAS thing, they're kind of the same. It's an environmental issue. It is an environmental problem. And the question that you have is, what do we do without our pipeline system? Are we willing to give it up? I don't think so. Are we willing to give up, foam, fire suppressant? I don't think so. Are we willing to Scotch Guard in our clothes? Are we willing to give that up?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay. But if we're willing to do that, that is part of the price of living in a modern society. And I think if you took a vote, the Rover pipeline would pass in Livingston County. That's kind of what I think.
Dennis, we're going to go next with you. What tax-related changes would you make in this county?
I'm sorry, Rick.
What tax-related changes would you make in this county?
Tax-related changes? Are we looking for something a little more?
Read the question. Just read the question.
That's it.
What tax-related changes would you make in this county?
Yeah.
I would spend it wisely.
Right. Well, and related to what? That's
You interpret. So
yeah. Well, you could interpret in many ways, correct? And I don't want to go off on a wrong track with this thing, so. I'm going to refrain on the answer to this right at the moment, if I might.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a difficult question. I guess what I do support a balanced budget. I do support responsible budgeting. I think really more than a question of raising taxes is reprioritizing the budget that we have already. I think Maureen already mentioned, what was it, $87 million in our budget right now. I know that our largest portion of that budget by far is the Sheriff's Department. Meanwhile, we spend more on animal control than we do on Livingston Community Mental Health, and both of those are, I think, $600,000 and $800,000 respectively, whereas the Sheriff's Department is in the multi-millions of dollars. I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe 16 million. So I really think that it's an issue of reprioritizing the money that we already have to suit the growing needs of our population and the changing needs of our population. I think we've demonstrated strongly what those are tonight.
Maureen?
I agree that we have to have a balanced budget. I agree that we need to have fiscal common sense. But I feel like what we have now is government that's run as if the very highest value of all of our residents is being the lowest tax rate in the state. I don't think that's our highest value. I think our land, our water, our youth, our seniors, those are our highest values. And we're not behaving as if that's the case, and we're not thinking about our future as if that's the case. We're just trying to save money and keep the tax rate low.
Taxes are an interesting thing because Conway Township is voting on a high-speed internet tax. And it's going to be, I believe it's like 3 to 4 mills, okay? So for every mill that you add on taxes, there's a certain number of senior citizens on fixed incomes that are going to lose their houses. There's a certain number of farmers in Conway Township, if that passes, that will probably have to go out of business. And so whenever you raise taxes and you do it for a good cause, you're also creating, on the other hand, an unexpected problem. And yes, I think it's wonderful that we have low taxes, but obviously Maureen is right that our citizens and whatever are more important than that.
Kristina?
Taxes. Last time I came and ran in 2016, I had put out a press release about saving $25,000 a month at the jail of our tax dollars with just a simple garden, which communities all around us, states all around us have done. Since that, in my current studies, I have actually found jails in the United States that are completely self-sufficient and take no tax dollars. That interests me.
Okay. Kasey, you're going to go next on the next one. The city of Brighton would donate $2,000 to support a lawsuit against the dark store tax policy that lets the big box stores pay taxes based on stores that were empty, even in other areas. So should the county commission contribute to this lawsuit to try and maintain the taxable value?
Yes, I think so. I think, in fact, that would be another great use for the delinquent tax revolving fund, this slush fund that we have. There's a big problem in affecting communities all across the state right now, dealing with revenue sharing and the erosion of our tax base. And this dark store funding formula that they've come up with is just another way that corporations are getting away with taking money from communities that desperately need that tax revenue and using it to benefit themselves. And I think that the county is really in a position to draw attention to this issue in terms of the dark stores and also in other ways that the state is decreasing its revenue sharing in the legislature, which is a huge problem.
Yes, I think the county should join the lawsuit.
I do agree that that this dark store issue, or the box store issue, is a problem. At this point I've not seen. So for some reason I've not seen that proposal, so I will not comment on that particular thing. But our tax system is based upon people paying an equal amount for equal value. And our tax system is out of whack because we shouldn't have to give tax abatements to get industries to locate. Our tax base should be there so that even the people that are here should be able to have the same advantage as a new store coming in.
Kristina?
I think we have a consensus on the table so far. Yes, I definitely agree.
I've not seen the proposal in direct myself. However, it is an issue. We have a problem here in Hamburg Township. Here at the Kroger Mall, for example, there are stores or units there that have never been opened and continue to sit idle. Couple that with the fact that there are more businesses going out of business of all types of nature due to other situations, and the problem is getting more complex as we speak. So is there concern, and do we need to, as far as the tax value, come up with something along this lines that's going to help both the community as well as perhaps merchants and owners of these malls and all alike? So I think the issue should be addressed publicly amongst all of the parties involved and take a very serious look at it.
Maureen, you're going to go first here, and for those of you who were here earlier, the discussion was what about the damn roads? And so you knew this question was going to come, and I got a couple of them I'll just combine. It says more than 50% of lane miles in Livingston County were rated poor in 2016, 2017 by the state. What is your plan to fix the county roads? And then what are your plans to fix the roads? So how do we fix roads and make sure that Livingston County gets our share and fixed?
The 6 Democratic candidates for the County Commission came together several months ago and devised a plan to use part of the unrestricted revenue that sits in the county coffers as a quick investment and a challenge fund for local municipalities and villages and townships to actually begin immediately to start fixing the roads. That fund has $42 million in it, and our proposal is that the county take $10 million of that, not all of it, but $10 million, and do an immediate response to the roads crisis.
Let me first of all talk about the $42 million in the revolving fund. The tax revolving fund is there for when there are unpaid taxes for the townships. The county takes its own funds and funds to the townships so that the townships have no lack of money, and the county takes all that burden. In the downturn, $26 million was used out of that fund. So at that point, it was good that we had that amount. Secondly, the jail, which some people disagree about, the jail fund is funded from that. There's $16 million that are earmarked from that, so that in case the county can't pay it, it'll be there. Thirdly, there's $33 million of that money that is used to back up a low rate loans to communities. Okay.
Gonna move on, Kristina?
Well, I think Maureen described what we had all discussed when, early in the summer as candidates, what we would like to do to fix our roads.
Roads, once again, is a state issue. They're state funded through gas tax, registration fees, and the like, and funded through the Act 51. It was said earlier that this is an old act, and certainly it is. Does it need rework? Certainly. But nevertheless, it is a state issue. Why should we spend dollars here and give up something else potentially? Okay. Along with that, you have to have a rainy day type fund of nature, as anything could happen at any time, as we well know. It happens around the country continually anymore. I certainly don't advocate or hope that anything serious happens here, but you must be prepared as well. So, but nevertheless, this is a state issue, and they've continually cut back on funding the roads. Talk to the Road Commission. They're well aware of it, as I am, and write and call the people in Lansing.
Kasey?
I have to disagree with Dennis. This is both a state issue and a county issue, and clearly a township issue as well, because we have no problem asking townships to pass road millages to pay for their roads. So why isn't it a county issue? That's what I want to know. These are county roads. The county is responsible for maintaining the roads, and we have a plan to contribute some of that money. We don't want to use all of it, but it should be a priority. And let me tell you why the county should be concerned. My husband and I, just in March, spent about $1,000 between the two of our cars on road repairs due to jostling. He had a brake issue where his brakes failed, and our mechanic attributed that in part to poor road conditions. That money is a tax. It comes out of our wallets to pay for a faulty infrastructure. And I think the fact that there is a disconnect between the county board, they are not commuters. They do not understand the miles that we put on our cars day in and day out and the expense that that brings on us. And I think these comments here tonight from our incumbents show that they are out of touch.
Okay, candidates, we have a lot of good questions, and we really appreciate all your comments. So if each of you can take like a minute and just sort of wrap up as to why people should vote for you for county commissioner. And Doug, you go first this time.
Okay, I just want to, there was a fourth thing I wanted to say. The commission took your your suggestion seriously. We did an audit of that and how much we would need to keep our bond rating. And it came out to be there was about $800,000 that are available, but nothing close to 10 million. My other comment is, I'm glad for a spirited debate, and I hope it's in a good way. I always learn from people that disagree with me. I've taken some good ideas today, and I will be looking into them. I asked for your vote on the 6th.
Kristina.
Well, I think between these venues and knocking doors, I hope that everybody will come out and vote on November 6th. If you vote for me, that's awesome, but I hope that everybody's at least more engaged and willing to show up this year to vote.
Yes, by all means, please vote on November 6th, no matter what. It is your right to do so. Maintain that. Let your voice be heard in any case. So I would appreciate your vote. I've got a lot of time in now in this position. I've accomplished a lot. There's much more that I believe I can accomplish. I firmly believe in Livingston County. I've lived here for some 25 plus years now. I love it. That sounds sometimes corny. I think in the past I've heard people saying it, and to me it sounds a little bit corny, but gosh, it's not so corny when it's the truth. It's often easy to say. Being a resident of Hamburg Township now for all this period of time, the only thing I regret is the loss of my wife due to a cancer situation some years ago now, but this is my home. I love it, and I thoroughly enjoy working as a leader for Livingston County. Thank you. Kasey?
Yes, I just want to say something I wanted to say earlier, that this county needs not one party rule, but more balanced leadership and new representation that understands our community priorities and is unafraid to speak out about what needs to be done. We need representatives from people who have put down roots here and will influence the direction of this county for decades to come. People who, like Kristina said, is representative of our community as a whole. And right now we have a monolithic board with a monolithic set of political opinions, and it's causing accountability issues at the county level, and I think the Veteran Services Committee is a perfect example of that. So I hope that people out there, if you're thinking of who you should vote for, that maybe you'll consider some of these things as you go to the polls on November 6th and realize that accountability is important, and one of the ways that you get that accountability is by having a healthy sense of balance on your board. Thank you.
Maureen.
I agree with Kasey. In any setting, a monoculture just isn't very healthy. I think we need diverse opinions and diverse people on our county board. I think that some of the Democrats that you've met tonight and the other Democrats running for county commission all bring pretty dynamic voices and vision and energy and a level of creativity and commitment that is pretty astounding. I've loved the campaigning experience. I hope that I'm elected. I think that there's much good that a county can do that we're not doing at present, and we need to begin